Welcome to War Mystery Files USA. Today, we take you inside one of the most challenging natural crises facing the United States, the winter storm emergency sweeping across the nation. From the northern plains to the southern states, millions of Americans are grappling with freezing temperatures, snow-covered highways, and power outages that have turned homes into icy shelters. In this documentary, we will explore not only the scale of this storm, but also the historical patterns that have shaped America's response to extreme winter weather. What happens when nature tests the limits of a nation's infrastructure? And how do citizens and authorities navigate this crisis? Winter storms are not new to the United States, but the intensity of recent storms has caught many by surprise. Across multiple states, meteorologists reported record snowfall, ice accumulation, and dangerously low temperatures. Highways became impassable, airports shut down, and millions faced the threat of prolonged isolation. Cities like Chicago, Denver, and Dallas experienced unprecedented disruptions. In some regions, entire communities were cut off, with emergency services struggling to reach those in need. Officials warned that this could be one of the most widespread winter emergencies in recent decades. The U.S. has a long history of battling winter storms. From the Great Blizzard of 1888 that paralyzed the East Coast to the more recent 2014 polar vortex that sent temperatures plummeting, these events have repeatedly tested the nation's preparedness. Each storm teaches valuable lessons about infrastructure, emergency response, and human resilience. Yet, despite decades of technological advancement, winter storms continue to expose vulnerabilities, from aging power grids to insufficient communication in rural areas. Behind every headline, there are personal stories of struggle and survival, families huddled in freezing homes without electricity, drivers stranded on icy roads for hours, emergency responders working tirelessly to save lives in treacherous conditions. These stories illustrate the human cost of natural disasters and the importance of community, preparedness, and quick action. Across the nation, neighbors became lifelines, volunteers formed impromptu rescue teams, and social media became a critical tool for sharing information. The federal, state, and local governments mobilized to respond. FEMA deployed emergency crews and resources, while state authorities activated National Guard units in critical areas. Utility companies worked around the clock to restore power, often under dangerous conditions. Yet challenges persisted. Aging infrastructure, record demand, and unpredictable weather patterns highlighted weaknesses in planning. This raises questions about how the U.S. can better prepare for increasingly extreme weather events in the future. This crisis underscores a vital lesson. Preparation is paramount. Cities and states must invest in resilient infrastructure, early warning systems, and community education. Individuals must also be ready with emergency kits, backup heating, and contingency plans. As climate patterns shift, winter storms may grow more unpredictable. The U.S. faces the task of adapting to nature's fury while protecting lives, homes, and the economy. History shows that those who learn from past disasters are better equipped to face the future. Across the United States, winter storms have always been a recurring challenge. Yet in recent years, their scope and intensity have grown to unprecedented levels. These storms, often characterized by blinding snow, freezing rain, and bone-chilling temperatures, do more than inconvenience daily life. They disrupt entire systems, halt transportation networks, and put millions of people at risk. The current winter storm crisis, sweeping across large portions of the nation, has brought these realities into sharp focus, exposing both the resilience and vulnerability of communities, infrastructure, and emergency management systems. From the northern plains to southern states rarely accustomed to extreme cold, the storm has left a trail of chaos and hardship, demonstrating the far-reaching consequences of nature's force. The storm's reach is staggering. Across dozens of states, weather reports indicate that millions of residents have experienced severe snowfall and ice accumulation. Major cities that are normally well equipped to handle winter weather found themselves grappling with conditions far beyond what they had anticipated. Roads became impassable as snowdrifts reached heights that paralyzed transportation, leaving commuters stranded and emergency responders struggling to reach those in need. Airports canceled thousands of flights, leaving travelers stuck for hours in freezing terminals, while freight and delivery services were delayed, highlighting the ripple effect of a single natural event on commerce and daily life. In some regions, power grids buckled under the strain, leaving millions without electricity for extended periods. With temperatures plummeting well below freezing, homes without power became dangerous, and communities were forced to rely on temporary shelters and emergency heating centers, underscoring the fragility of infrastructure in extreme conditions. The impact on public health has been profound. Hospitals reported an increase in weather-related emergencies, including injuries from slips and falls on ice, traffic accidents, and hypothermia cases. Vulnerable populations, particularly the elderly, faced heightened risks as heating systems failed and access to essential services became limited. Emergency hotlines were inundated with calls, and first responders worked tirelessly in dangerous conditions to ensure that medical care reached those who needed it most. The strain on health services and emergency operations highlighted the critical need for preparedness and adaptive strategies in the face of increasingly volatile weather patterns. Economically, the storm has caused billions of dollars in losses. Businesses shuttered due to unsafe conditions, supply chains were disrupted, and energy consumption surged as residents tried to stay warm, putting additional pressure on already stressed utilities. Schools and universities were forced to close, impacting education and forcing a sudden shift to remote learning in some areas. The agricultural sector, too, faced challenges, with frozen crops and livestock exposed to extreme cold, threatening both local economies and food supply chains. The national economy, while resilient, experienced a significant slowdown in the affected regions, demonstrating that the effects of a single storm can cascade across industries, transportation, and commerce in ways that are difficult to fully quantify. The human stories emerging from the crisis paint a vivid picture of endurance, adaptation, and the unpredictable nature of life during extreme weather. Families found themselves trapped in their homes, improvising ways to stay warm while rationing food and water. Neighbors banded together to help those who were isolated or in need, sharing resources, shoveling snow, and providing emotional support. Volunteers and community organizations played a critical role in assisting the most vulnerable, distributing blankets, meals, and emergency supplies. These acts of solidarity highlight a universal truth. While nature can be unforgiving, human resilience and cooperation often emerge strongest in the face of adversity. Transportation systems, a lifeline for modern society, were severely impacted. Major interstate highways were closed due to ice and snow, and secondary roads became treacherous or impassable. Freight and delivery services ground to a halt, affecting not only consumer goods, but also medical supplies and emergency equipment. Airports canceled thousands of flights, leaving passengers stranded for hours in freezing conditions. Public transportation systems, including buses and commuter trains, faced delays and cancellations, further disrupting daily life. The scale of the disruption demonstrated how deeply modern society depends on complex transportation networks, and how a single weather event can create cascading effects that reverberate far beyond the areas directly affected by the storm. Utilities, particularly electricity and natural gas services, came under severe strain. As residents turned up heating systems to combat sub-zero temperatures, the demand for energy soared, overwhelming infrastructure in some areas. Power outages left millions without heat, water, or communication services. Utility companies faced the dual challenge of restoring services quickly while ensuring the safety of their workers, many of whom operated in dangerous conditions. The failure of essential services during the storm underscored the vulnerability of infrastructure that is often taken for granted, and prompted urgent discussions about modernizing and hardening energy systems to withstand extreme weather events. Communication systems, vital in coordinating emergency responses, were also tested. While social media and local news outlets provided critical updates, spotty connectivity in rural and remote areas meant that some communities were left without timely warnings or guidance. The lack of access to accurate information in real time put lives at risk, highlighting the importance of robust communication networks and contingency planning. Local authorities had to rely on a combination of traditional and modern methods to ensure that residents received necessary information, from sirens and radio announcements to digital alerts and emergency broadcasts. The storm's impact was not uniform across the country. States in the northern regions, accustomed to heavy snowfalls, still experienced unprecedented challenges due to the storm's intensity and rapid onset. Meanwhile, southern states, less prepared for extreme cold and ice, faced particularly severe consequences. Power grids and transportation systems in these regions, not designed for sustained freezing conditions, were overwhelmed. Citizens unaccustomed to such weather were forced to adapt quickly, often improvising with limited resources. The storm revealed regional disparities in infrastructure resilience, emergency preparedness, and public awareness, emphasizing the need for a nationwide approach to disaster readiness. Environmental consequences of the winter storm were also significant. Ice accumulation on trees and power lines caused widespread damage, while snow-laden roofs faced structural risks. Roads and bridges were subjected to the combined effects of ice, snow, and rapid temperature fluctuations, increasing the potential for long-term damage and costly repairs. Water systems faced challenges from freezing pipes and increased demand, while emergency services contended with hazards created by shifting ice and snow. The storm demonstrated how interconnected natural and human systems are, and how extreme weather can trigger a cascade of environmental, social, and economic consequences. In addition to immediate impacts, the winter storm crisis has sparked broader discussions about climate variability and national preparedness. Experts point to changing weather patterns and the increasing frequency of extreme events as evidence that the United States must rethink its approach to infrastructure, emergency response, and community resilience. Investments in smarter energy grids, improved transportation networks, and comprehensive emergency planning are seen as essential to mitigating the effects of future storms. The current crisis serves as both a warning and an opportunity. It exposes vulnerabilities while highlighting the potential for innovation, cooperation, and strengthened resilience. The scope and impact of the winter storm crisis across the United States are vast and multifaceted. From human hardship to infrastructure failure, from economic disruption to environmental consequences, the storm illustrates the profound influence of extreme weather on modern society. Millions of Americans have faced challenges ranging from temporary inconvenience to life-threatening situations, while communities, government agencies, and private entities work tirelessly to respond and recover. The storm underscores the necessity of preparedness, the value of human solidarity, and the ongoing need to adapt to a world where extreme weather events may become more frequent, intense, and unpredictable. Through the lens of this crisis, we see the resilience, vulnerability, and determination of a nation tested by forces far beyond human control. Throughout American history, winter storms have repeatedly tested the nation's ability to prepare, respond, and recover. Long before modern forecasting and emergency systems existed, powerful blizzards shaped the development of cities, infrastructure, and public policy. One of the earliest reminders came in the late 19th century when massive snowstorms brought entire regions to a standstill. The Great Blizzard of 1888 paralyzed the East Coast, burying cities under towering snowdrifts, cutting off communication lines, and forcing communities into isolation for days. That storm became a turning point, leading to underground power lines, improved weather monitoring, and early emergency coordination. Yet even with such lessons etched into history, winter storms have continued to expose weaknesses in preparedness across generations. As the United States expanded westward and industrialized, winter weather disasters followed. The early 20th century saw railways frozen, towns cut off, and energy systems pushed beyond their limits. Each storm revealed how tightly connected daily life had become to technology and infrastructure. Electricity, transportation, and centralized heating improved comfort and productivity, but they also created new dependencies. When winter storms struck, the failure of these systems had immediate and severe consequences. Despite advances in engineering and planning, preparedness often lagged behind the speed at which cities and populations grew. In the modern era, the nation has faced multiple winter crises that echo today's challenges. The blizzard of 1978 shut down much of the Midwest and Northeast, stranding thousands of motorists and overwhelming emergency services. Decades later, the polar vortex events of the early 21st century brought record-breaking cold to regions unaccustomed to such temperatures. Power grids faltered, schools closed for extended periods, and public safety warnings became constant. These events demonstrated that while forecasting technology had improved, preparedness at the infrastructure level remained uneven. Systems designed for average conditions struggled when confronted with extremes. Preparedness challenges have been particularly evident in regions where severe winter weather was historically rare. Southern states, built for heat rather than cold, have repeatedly suffered during sudden freezes. Water pipes burst, roads iced over without adequate treatment, and power systems failed under demand they were never designed to handle. These failures were not solely technical. They reflected planning assumptions rooted in past climate norms. As weather patterns became more volatile, those assumptions proved dangerously outdated. Each winter emergency revealed how regional planning gaps could escalate into national crises. Emergency management in the United States evolved significantly over time, especially after large-scale disasters highlighted coordination failures. Federal and state agencies developed response frameworks, while local governments created emergency operation centers and response plans. However, winter storms often move quickly, leaving little time to mobilize resources. Unlike hurricanes, which offer days of warning, winter systems can intensify rapidly, challenging even well-prepared regions. This speed places enormous pressure on decision-makers, first responders, and utility operators who must act decisively under uncertain conditions. One of the greatest preparedness challenges lies in infrastructure aging. Much of the nation's power grid, water systems, and transportation networks were built decades ago. These systems were not designed to withstand prolonged extreme cold, heavy ice accumulation, or rapid temperature fluctuations. As winter storms grow more intense, failures become more frequent and widespread. Rolling blackouts, frozen substations, and damaged transmission lines highlight the cost of deferred maintenance and underinvestment. Each storm adds to the growing realization that historical infrastructure models may no longer be sufficient for modern risks. Public awareness and personal preparedness have also played a critical role in past winter disasters. History shows that individuals who are informed and equipped are more likely to survive and recover quickly. Yet despite repeated warnings, many households remain unprepared for extended power outages or isolation. Emergency kits, backup heating, and communication plans are often overlooked until crisis strikes. This gap between knowledge and action has persisted across decades, contributing to preventable hardships during winter emergencies. Communication has historically been both a strength and a weakness during winter storms. Advances in digital alerts, satellite imagery, and real-time forecasting have improved warning capabilities. However, storms frequently disrupt the very communication networks needed to deliver those warnings. Rural communities, in particular, have faced isolation when cell towers fail or roads become impassable. Historical accounts from past blizzards mirror present-day experiences, reminding us that technology alone cannot eliminate vulnerability without redundancy and planning. Government response strategies have evolved, but winter storms continue to challenge coordination across local, state, and federal levels. Historical reviews of past emergencies reveal recurring issues, delayed declarations, resource shortages, and uneven response effectiveness. While many agencies perform heroically, structural limitations and bureaucratic processes can slow action. Each crisis prompts reviews and reforms, yet similar problems resurface during subsequent storms. This cycle highlights the difficulty of translating lessons learned into sustained preparedness improvements. Climate variability has added another layer of complexity to historical preparedness models. Past planning relied on predictable seasonal patterns, but modern storms increasingly defy those expectations. Regions accustomed to moderate winters now face severe cold snaps, while traditionally cold areas experience heavier snowfall and ice storms. This unpredictability complicates everything from road treatment schedules to energy demand forecasting. Historical data, once a reliable guide, now offers limited reassurance in an era of rapid environmental change. The human memory of disasters tends to fade with time, weakening preparedness efforts between crises. Historical analysis shows that funding and attention often surge immediately after a disaster, only to decline as normalcy returns. Winter storms, because they occur seasonally, can become normalized, reducing urgency despite their potential severity. This pattern has repeated for generations, leaving communities vulnerable when the next major storm arrives. Yet history also reveals progress. Each winter crisis has driven improvements in forecasting accuracy, emergency coordination, and public awareness. Weather prediction has advanced from rudimentary observation to sophisticated modeling, providing earlier warnings than ever before. Emergency response agencies have expanded training and interagency cooperation. Community resilience initiatives have grown, emphasizing local preparedness and mutual aid. These advances demonstrate that learning is possible, even if incomplete. The preparedness challenges exposed by the current winter storm crisis are not new. They are deeply rooted in historical patterns. From infrastructure limitations to planning assumptions and human behavior, the same themes recur across decades. What has changed is the scale and frequency of the threat. Modern society, as dependence on interconnected systems, means that failures cascade faster and farther than in the past. A single storm can disrupt power, water, transportation, healthcare, and commerce simultaneously, magnifying its impact. Looking back, history offers a clear message. Winter storms are not isolated events, but recurring tests of national readiness. Each generation inherits both the lessons and the vulnerabilities of those before it. The question is not whether another winter crisis will occur, but whether the nation will fully apply the lessons history has already provided. Preparedness is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing process, shaped by memory, investment, and collective responsibility. The historical context of winter storms in the United States reveals a nation repeatedly challenged by the same forces, yet steadily adapting. The preparedness challenges faced today are the result of choices made over decades, influenced by technology, climate, and societal priorities. As the current crisis unfolds, it stands as the latest chapter in a long historical narrative, one that reminds us that understanding the past is essential to surviving the storms of the future.